Nova Prime, Cybertron's ancient leader and the first to lead Cybertron after the 13 Primes disappeared after their age ended, or even a member of the 13, depending where you look. However, despite his design taking cues from Optimus, and what makes me think that Nova could be Optimus Prime's ancestor alongside his super form looking a bit angelic, he's not a heroic Autobot in his original fiction, since he's from the distant past, he's evil, which is a trope that the IDW 1.01 did a lot, of an Autobots from the distant past, they're evil. But that's a rant for another day, until I get around to Star Saber's video. Today I'm going over how I would like Nova Prime to be used in future media. I would find Nova Prime to be a heroic Autobot, like it what he was in Derivation. He was Prime's second in command during the Fallen's War, and Prime gives Nova the Matrix of leadership after the war ends, became the first non-15th member to bear the Matrix. It upgrades Nova into the body he's known for today. I picture Nova Prime during his early days being one of Autobots' arc was to become Prime, as in Nova is already a great leader to get his team through a battle, but to leave a government needs a different skill set, which would be Nova Prime's arc to eventually become more like Junior Optimus, though recently more like Cybertron Optimus, given his design. And while in my 15th Primes video, I said that the Autobot model, freedom is right of all sentient beings, comes from them, but I can see Nova Prime reinforcing that sentiment and this ideal further as the groundwork of what the Autobots stand for. Now, there was a wrinkle I think would happen during Nova Prime's unification efforts, especially when Nova Prime's Autobots began to return to the space colonies after communication with them was lost during the war. The Autobots keep hearing rumors and murmurs of remnants of the Fallen's army, the Destrons, doing their own unification out in the depths of space, on the planet Char, becoming the Decepticons. As for who could Nova Prime's rival be, I think it could be Galvatron, as he was also an ancient Transformer in the original IDW run. Plus, if he was characterized like his G1 Season 3 self after the defeat of the Fallen and his banishment to the dead universe, Galvatron survived but went mad, but still retaining his tentacle mind. A body that's how I would like Nova Prime's past to be like. He and Autobots tried to rebuild after the Fallen's war, but Galvatron and Decepticons tried to finish what the Fallen started, dominating over Cybertron and the rest of the galaxy. I can see this era ending in one of two ways. The first way ending with a massive battle over and on Jar, devastating the planet like it was in G1, with Galvatron and Nova Prime's final battle having them disappear from the galaxy, as Galvatron's doomsday weapon fired, and while Nova Prime was able to stop it from completely devastating the planet, the weapon instead imploded, sending him and Galvatron into the dead universe. Or the second way of it, playing out mostly the same, but with only Galvatron getting destroyed by his own doomsday weapon, leaving Nova Prime and the Autobots the victor. They rebuild, and like in Devastation, Nova departs outside of known space to travel the stars and colonize non-living planets, but disappears. As for what happens to the Matrix in either scenario, I'm gonna go by TF1 and say Primus can have Matrix return to him at any time, or simply Nova just leaves the Matrix behind on Cybertron in either scenario. And either way, Nova Prime disappears, like the handful of times he has been used in official media. Nova gets corrupted, and personally I would have it be by Unicorn and the Fallen, with Nova putting up a good fight, but the overwhelming power of Unicorn eventually overpowers him, which leads us into how I would like Nova Prime to be used in the story set in the modern day Autobot Decepticon war. Either one of Megatron's super weapons of the week, or even Unicorn himself, breaks the barrier between the main universe and the dead universe, not enough for Unicorn or the Fallen to escape, but enough for them to send out their corrupted pawn, Nova Prime. Just like in the comics, the corrupted Nova would have a primarily black color scheme, and what I would add would be with all his attacks given a fiery hellfire-like aura to them, now due to the corruption. And like in the original story, Nova would go by the Nemesis Prime name whilst corrupted, either by calling that himself naturally, or by an Autobot making a quip about him being Nemesis Prime. Nemesis Prime would assist these Decepticons while quietly doing his own thing in the background, all the while taunting Optimus of his true identity, then continuing to just taunt Optimus while Prime tries to do anything to free Nova. During Optimus Prime's attempts to free Nova Prime, Nova would briefly break free for moments at a time. During certain moments of freedom, Nova would try to warn whoever is near him about Unicorn and the Fallen's plans to break free of the dead universe before losing to the corruption again. Eventually, Nemesis and Optimus Prime have their galactic battle, with Optimus knowing how to free Nova Prime, as within his Matrix chamber is the Darkspark, and if Optimus is able to get away from Nova, he'll be freed. When time is right, Optimus is able to remove the Darkspark from Nova Prime, stunning him and reverting him back to his original color scheme. The Darkspark tries to infect Optimus until the Matrix and Prime's will overpower it, and he throws it away. Prime aims his rifle at the Darkspark, and as he pulls the trigger, Nova Prime shouts at Optimus to not destroy it, but he's too late. Optimus lands a direct hit on the Darkspark. A powerful wave of dark power overcomes the area as the barrier between universes weaken further as a massive crack in space and time opens above the battleground and Earth. It's too small for Unicorn to escape, but the Fallen teleports at Optimus and Nova Prime's location. He thanks the Primes in a mocking tone for being easy to manipulate into freeing himself and Unicorn, but before the Fallen could do anything else, the Autobots attack, allowing both Optimus and Nova to escape. Before I continue with Nova living, I can see two other outcomes of this, like when the Darkspark is destroyed and the Fallen is freed. Nova Prime crashes dead on the ground, as the Fallen was just pummeling Nova's dead body through the Darkspark. Or the barrier between universes breaks in a different way, and Nova Prime comes out of super form to reveal that the Fallen was just wearing Nova Prime like a banana shell this whole time. Well, I can see that being a cool twist, but personally that's not as interesting as Nova Prime still living afterwards, being a man at a time in the current day. In order that Nova is free from the control of the Darkspark, he can help the Autobots with his arsenal alongside his ability to fly. But I do imagine that first, Nova will have to see help with looking through what it was like having two embodiments of evil being in your head, completely taking over your body to do acts of evil. Well, I can see medics like Ratchet, First Aid, or Minerva being able to help Nova Prime through this medically, but I can see Optimus temporarily giving Nova the matrix of leadership again. Not to lead, but I can see the matrix being able to have this therapeutic healing effect to help Nova through this pain. As it was still some kind of mental link of Unicorn and the Fallen have over Nova Prime, the Matrix should be able to sever it. And the Matrix also has a mindscape within it that holds all the knowledge of the past primes, and I can see why it would also have a mental healing effect too. Whether that be by having the past primes having a conversation with Nova that helps him with this pain, or having Primus himself speak to Nova through the Matrix, helping him heal. Onto a lighter subject now, with Nova Prime interacting with the modern world. As you can imagine, Nova would have a lot of catching up to do, which I'm sure that the Autobots, the human allies, and maybe Turtle and One can help ease Nova living in the modern era. One thing I can see being a modern joke for an episode is Nova having horrendously out-of-date firmware, and thus being unable to access/use any modern Autobot tech, as it just can't recognize or even understand the ancient firmware Nova has. With the sole exception of Titan 1, as I imagine the Autobot supercomputer being the only thing capable of understanding the ancient firmware Nova has, with Titan 1 acting as a middleman for Nova for whatever he has to go to use modern tech. Titan 1, Ratchet, and maybe even Wheeljack are preparing a software package for Nova Prime to install to update his firmware, but it is a bit of a lower priority to do, with the threat of Unicorn literally looming over the Earth. But it gets worse for Nova, as Decepticons temporarily disabled Titan 1, cutting Nova off from modern tech, with the B-plot of that episode being Nova having to power through to tech issues to save the day, like Nova gets stuck in a supply closet as Autobot HQ has smart doors with no physical backup button, or Nova Prime having to find a clear way to use the ground bridge to save the day as the backup system can't recognize him. As for what Nova's dynamic would be in the team, outside of the previously mentioned man out of time, I can see Nova being a mixture of Cup and Ultra Magnus. As like those two, Nova is an urban leader type / mentor type. Since he was the leader that reunited Cybertron after the Fallen's War, I can see Nova being more protective of infrastructure like bridges and power lines, and other related things like hospitals, fire brigade, and law enforcement. Things that keep civilians safe and heal and protect the injured during and after a battle. The Autobots would already keep those things in mind, but I think Nova would put more importance on them, as rebuilding would take a lot longer when one or more of those things are destroyed or out of order. I think Nova would also have insight on fighting the Fallen, as he was Primus second in command, so he will be able to teach the Autobots tactics that the Ancient Autobots use against the Fallen. So instead of being completely out of luck when the Fallen shows up, now able to stall the Fallen long enough for Optimus or another Autobot heavy hitter like Omega Supreme to show up to deal with the Fallen. As for characters I think would interact with Nova Prime the most, other than Optimus, I feel like Hotwood would be a somewhat obvious answer. He is the chosen one after all, and I think Nova would understand having that responsibility hanging over you, so I can see Nova becoming a mentor to Hotwad, preparing him for his eventual rise to Primehood, and prepare him for fighting the Fallen. Cup is also another character to mention here, since he too is an old man character, though nowhere near as old as Nova. I imagine he would sympathize with Nova having to adjust to living in modern times. I also imagine he would have a unique view on Avachion, as he saw him in his prime. Nova would know a side of Avachion that Opus and Elita have never seen or only cast descriptions of. So while Opus speaks freely to him as a mentor, I can see Nova treating Avachion like a god, for lack of knowing better wording. But Avachion tries to tell Nova that that level of worship isn't necessary anymore, or even ways to begin with, but taking a long while before Nova begins to talk to Avachion more freely. Though I imagine Nova won't fully get over seeing Avachion a living but being one of the 13. Lastly, the Fallen. Naturally, Nova Prime would see him not only as a traitor to Primus and all of Cybertron, but also hate him even more for puppeting his body to sow chaos and destruction. But now Nova is a Prime and has the Autobots behind them, while Optimus would probably be the one to stop the Fallen and the Unicorn following the plans and sealing them back into the dead universe. But that doesn't stop Nova Prime from fighting and beating the Fallen in many battles over a Unicorn arc. And with that, at the end of this video, what do you think I might take on Nova Prime? Would you do anything different with him? And would you like to see him appear in more Transformers media? And in any event, thank you for watching.